worked here for over 20 years now. In my first job here, I got my 2 weeks of vacation, and after a few years, I had the audacity to ask for 2 weeks of vacation because I wanted to go home and visit my parents in Germany. And my boss at the time was totally floored. He was totally shocked that somebody would ask for 2 weeks of vacation at a time. He said yes, I was able to go for 2 weeks, but that was a real culture shock for me to see the differences, how I was used to work-life balance in Germany versus how it is here. A funny side note, my boss that still works at the same company, he took a 2 week vacation a few years back. So I see change in the US here. I see change that employers make, and I am coming with that background. I am trying to create a work-life balance in my organization as well. And I think that always starts with leading by example, right? So I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to be conscious of sending emails off hours or on weekends. With my key people, they know when I send an email on a weekend, it's really just for me to get it off my plate, and I do not expect them to respond or get started on whatever it is. That's mainly because one of my previous bosses, she had the habit of working Sunday mornings. So without a fail, every Sunday morning, I will get emails from her asking me that this needs to be done by Monday at noon. And only looking back, that really stressed me out, because my typical day, if I do work on the weekends, is Saturday morning. I like to work Saturday mornings, and then Sunday is my day off. So getting that email Sunday morning, needing to work to have something done by Monday at noon, was really stressful. So I am trying to not do any of these mistakes and lead by example. And with that, I just want to open it up and talk about things that you experience, what stresses you out in the workplace, that really stops you from having a balanced work-life arrangement.
I guess I've got a question about the way things are in other Western countries, because obviously being from Germany, I know we have a vendor that we work with in Canada, and she had a baby last year, and she was off for a year. As her client, it was very difficult for us. But in talking to some of her colleagues, they get that time and it's paid, and it's partially employer and partially government. Um, I'm just, my understanding is that European countries are very similar, and that there's just not this work till you die mentality.
Yep, absolutely. In Germany, it's 3 years. You get paid 60%, and that is paid half by the employer and half by the feds. Yep. And
So
there
was
is
that
no,
tough to move here?
yeah, yeah. And when I tell these stories about how it's here to my friends and family in Germany, they cannot believe how little paid time off everybody gets. It's they're quite shocked by that. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get 3 years off with a guarantee you have your job back when you re-enter the workforce after 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's really, really good.
It is really good, but the
It just wouldn't
social
fly here.
the social network is set up for, and it's accounted for, so I'm sure it would be a big change to implement here, but down to the paid time off, it's very usual that you would take 3 weeks off at a time in the summer.
Mm.
I'm sorry
Wow.
to start with
No,
all
I
these
think
bad.
it's certainly something to strive for. Um, but I mean, I think, and when people travel, do they actually, because I know a lot of times we may take vacation, but still we're attached to our email, we're attached to whatever, and we're responding to stuff. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I'm,
No, they're taking 3 weeks off, have an out of office response that they'll be back in 3 weeks, and they typically do not even get contacted by their employer during that time.
wow. So that would be a real culture shift. And
Yep.
I try to be, you know, we've got a few people here who have very young children, and if something comes up and they need to work remotely or whatever, um, if somebody needs to work remotely to take care of an aging family member, I mean, I try to be very, um, yeah. So Janelle just said in the chat, last year was the first time she took 2 weeks off. I don't know that I've ever taken two consecutive. I do try to take at least a week vacation a year. Um, I try to create high expectations, but not. I try. Janelle can tell me if I am good at it or if I'm wrong. Um, but then try to say, okay, that's enough. You still need to take care of yourself. But
Mhm.
sometimes it can be hard because I'm sure, like in your line, you've got clients that are demanding things and they want it now. They want it yesterday, and
Yep.
then that how you don't like project that forward to your staff.
It is hard. It is hard. And I even when I'm on vacation, I have my phone on me. Um, I respond to emails, or at least respond to say that I can get to it for a few days, and then I usually still work when I'm on vacation. But now, for us, we are now 30 people, so now I can at least delegate some of those responsibilities that come up during my vacation. But yeah, when I go on vacation, my right hand admin assistant, HR, accounting person, she needs a vacation after that.
Right, I'm sure. So, is the fact that you try to promote a culture that recognizes that people have lives outside of work, does that help you with recruiting talent?
um, it's hard to say, and I'm hesitating because everybody says they're promoted, and everybody is on that bandwagon that we support this. But when it comes down to it, it's really hard to stick to what you're saying.
Right.
But I think, yes, I think it helps. I think what helps the most is that we are a small company and we can be really flexible with flex time or work from home, or even just part-time work if the
Mm-hmm.
circumstances are. Um, so I think that's what attracts some younger folks to our company, that there is that flexibility. And I know this is mainly about government, uh, women, and leadership, and I think that's why a lot of folks switch into the private sector, because there is more flexibility
Right.
and personalized approach to work hours and setups.
Right. So do you see Savannah says in the chat, from an employee perspective, she thinks there may have been some implicit bias when she knew her new manager had a European background.
That's good. It worked in my case.
And you were very
And
fortunate.
for me
I'm
too,
sure
Savannah.
Savannah is great.
Yeah. Well, I just did want to add, because you're right, Rita, everyone now says they're about the work-life balance. So you got to start grasping for, okay, how do they prove it? And we've talked about implicit bias and stuff today. That is definitely probably part of it.
That's it is true, because that, since it's become such a buzzword, everybody likes to say it. I know I like to say it, but I know there are times we're not there. That we may try to support the work-life balance, but then when stuff's coming at us at 90 miles an hour and we're trying to, manage, it's very easy to get sucked in and forget those things.
Yeah.
So this morning's presentation, Tara's presentation, I thought was a real good kind of opportunity to hit the reset button. And I think one of the things that Tara said that resonated with me, because I wrote it down, was that she said, I took a lot of notes today, as it relates to balance, she said there are times in your life where you have to put more into work than personal, and vice versa. So balance isn't a constant. It's kind of a shifting, but even when things are busy, I think it's so. Janelle knows this. I just went out and I hadn't had breakfast or lunch, so I just had 4 cupcakes, little cupcakes, but still 4, and that's like what I've eaten today. So, yeah, that's not self-care.
No, it's not. And I heard her say that too. And what I was thinking is, during the pandemic, everybody seemed to have so much time, and everything slowed down. And I know it was stressful for a lot of people, but it was also very relaxing and calming and resetting for me. I know that. And what I learned from the pandemic is, and I heard that yesterday in the keynote, it's really be intentional and purposeful in what you do outside of work. Because, when you talk about work-life balance, everybody is trying to fix that work bucket, but it's up to you to fix your home bucket as well. I know with kids and picking up school and activities and maybe aging parents, it's not always easy, but I made a point too to only do things that interest me, that I get value out of, that are good for me. Some of the activities that I used to do, I don't do anymore. They just wasted time without giving me any pleasure. They added more stress rather than having a positive impact on me.
Anyone else want to jump in? I wonder if it's end of the day.
I had one question for discussion, I guess. But we've kind of talked around the issue, and it's been covered a little bit in multiple sessions, but yeah, it's just keeping your passions in check. Like when you're really passionate about the work you do and serving your clients well and not spreading yourself too thin. Just some strategies for that.
Yeah, that's a challenge, because like I know we have the things that we have to accomplish and we need to accomplish, and then there's this other thing that somebody's like, I want to do XYZ, and well, that's a personal interest, and I think I could really move the ball forward on that. And so it's something I'm passionate about, but maybe it's not. It's adding on to an already full plate. So managing that impulse to want to jump out and do the things that you're very interested in, but maybe just don't have the time for.
So one of the little things, Savannah, that I do is I'm interested in a lot of topics, and I feel I don't always have the time to read. So I listen to a lot of books on tape, on apps. You know, even when I cook or when I'm in the car, or you know, it's just background information that I absorb. Granted, I'm not paying always 100% attention like you would when you read a book, but at least I feel like I'm accomplishing something that, or I'm doing something that interests me. And it's not taking away from anything else.
I've started trying to read for about 10 minutes every night, so it could take me a long time to get through a book, or sometimes I read longer. And I alternate between a fiction book and something that's going to be either professionally, help me professionally or personally. Right now I'm reading Atlas of the Heart. So, but I try to do that so that I'm, doing a little bit of everything, but at a very, not breakneck kind of pace.
So public sector employers, are you really limited by how much flexibility or how much you can offer?
We are. I think we are. Because we definitely have more of a standard workday. What I try to do is, I remember, and I'm not going to say which previous employer, but a previous employer, and I brought my kid in just for an hour or whatever, and was told, we don't bring our kids into work. And to me, you want the whole idea of you want your employees to be able to bring their full selves to work. Well, there's a difference between I'm not going to make arrangements for childcare ever because I'm just going to keep my kid in my office, and I'm coming in with my kid for an hour, or I've got an employee, we have a meeting tonight, and she said to me, "Is it okay that I bring my daughter?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." I mean, she knows that how, now not every child can behave during a meeting, but I know she's had her daughter at meetings before, and the kid just sits and colors or plays on her tablet or whatever, and I guess I've always felt like, as a manager, to me, it's important that the employees see me as a full person. So they see that facet of me that's a mother. They see that facet of me that, has something other than work. And it's important that, as either peers or as supervisors, that we see not every facet, but you know what I mean, the multifaceted side of our staff, so that we realize. So unless it's one of the, there are certain jobs where you absolutely have to be there at a certain time every day, and if you're not, then you're setting. To me, those are a certain type of job, and you don't have flexibility on that. But if somebody comes in late because their daughter wasn't feeling well, their son wasn't feeling well, or they, whatever, to me, I tend to try to be a little flexible about that and to make it up later in the day. As long as everything's covered and it's not, you know, I know not all employers are like that. So I do try to be, I try to be understanding of those things that happen outside of work that
That's
kind of
great.
roll into a little bit. Anything else, Savannah?
I don't know on the spot.
Okay, sorry.
No, I might chime in another 2 minutes. Just give me a minute to think.
We we can always end this early. I was kind of hoping we'd have more people, but it's the end of the day. I know late sessions are always the toughest one for people because they've been away from their desk or away from their work at least for a few hours. So
Okay, I have another question that both of you guys can answer. How not to, take the work conversations home in the evening and draw that line there.
that's so funny. Talk to my husband. He'll tell you I am not qualified to answer that question.
Same here. So my husband works with me.
Oh gosh.
So we see each other 24/7, and during breakfast, 24/7 there is at least once an hour there is a conversation about work. It's not always bad. So Savannah, I cannot answer that either.
It doesn't drive you too crazy, evidently. So.
It drives my husband crazy, I think. I think he just stops listening after a while.
Yeah.
So Rita, you're in a different position because you work with your husband, so you're actually talking about it. My husband just is like, all right, I don't want to hear about it anymore. I have my own work issues. You don't need to share.
But Savannah, we do make a point, if it drags out or if it's, if it can wait till tomorrow, as a couple, we're making a point to say, okay, this is enough about work, that we actually have a life. So it's sometimes hard, and we have to catch and stop ourselves to not talk about work. But it is nice too that you can talk about work with your husband that understands, that has maybe a different perspective on a situation that you experienced at work. So that's actually pretty nice too, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's still it comes down to boundaries. At what point have you maybe you come home and you talk a little bit, but then you need to be able to put it aside and move on. And I admittedly could do better at that sometimes than others. So now I feel like I see a challenge, so I'm going to work on that.
But I think, Savannah, that goes back to your previous answer about passion, right? If you're really excited about whatever you did at work or what happened, you just want to share that passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
These conversations are not always bad conversation or about bad things. They're often about, this was good and I'm excited about this. So it's about sharing your passion.
Yep.
I think that the main thing is having other things that you can talk about as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any other thoughts, or this was a nice chat.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I want to encourage you to attend the 4:10. Is that what time the last session is? 4:10.
Yes.
Yeah, closing remarks, because we will have the opportunity to win massage MD gift cards.
Ooh, for some good self-care.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, thank you. And I will talk to you all later. It was nice to meet you, Rita.
Nice to meet you too, Anne-Marie.
All right. Bye.
Take care.